Hi guys, my name is Megan and today I've got some spring reading recommendations for you. Alright, so today we're talking about some of my favorite spring themed reads, so let's go ahead and just dive right in. Alright, so first up I have Oak King, Holly King. This is a really sweet, slow building fantasy, romantic-y kind of vibe. This is following a clerk in 1860s London, I believe, and he is queer. He is also struggling with his friends knowing that, but also like the politics of Edwardian England or Victorian England. Anyway, of that century in England, he accidentally stumbles upon a fae and rescues him, and together they become the Oak King and Holly King, and one of them is supposed to die, but they decide to turn tradition on its head and neither of them dies. And just like it's them circumnavigating the politics of Edwardian England and escaping to the fae realm and just being together, and it's really, really sweet, and it's one of my favorite winter going into spring books. It's so good. It's the slow building fantasy that you didn't know that you needed. Next up I have Wild Beast Forest House. This is a really fun manga. This one is 16 plus. This is following Yule, who is a domestic cat who is getting out of a very bad home life situation, and he runs to the forest where there is the wild animals have built a retreat for themselves so that, you know, if they just want places to go to be away from everything that's going on for them, that's there. It's like a little oasis for the wild animals. And since Yule is a domestic animal, they don't really want him there, but after they see the situation that he came from, they decide to let him stay, and it's them just trying to figure out how to help him. And this is really fun. Again, this one is 16 plus, but it's just one of my favorite manga that I've read to date. It's so sweet. Next up I have The Shots You Take. This is one that I'd say check the trigger warnings before diving in, because this one deals very heavily with grief and depression and addiction issues. Check the trigger warnings before going into this one, but this is one of my favorite books that deals with grief. This is following Riley, who is a former NHL hockey player. He has suffered some addiction issues, but also he had untreated depression while he was in the NHL, and he also had a friends with benefits thing going on with one of his teammates, and he was really in love with this teammate, and this teammate, Adam, hadn't really accepted his own queerness at that point in their lives, so they had a breakup. Riley had a really bad panic attack, and like it wasn't because of the breakup, but like it led in part to it, and kind of had a mental breakdown and left NHL to go back home. Now 10 years later, his father has passed away, and he is dealing very heavily with the grief of that, while also having Adam come back into his life after finding out that Riley's father passed away, because Adam really liked his family. And it's them reconnecting and rekindling their romance, but also dealing with a lot of the baggage that they had from their friends with benefits thing that kind of turned into a lot more, but also dealing with some of Riley's grief and depression. It's one of my favorite books, and especially because it's set in a very small Nova Scotia town where everybody knows everybody and there's a growing queer community there. But yeah, it's one that I would highly recommend. Next up I have Act Your Age, Eve Brown. This is one of my favorite books featuring an autistic main character. It actually features two autistic main characters. So this is following Eve Brown, who is kind of a hot mess when it comes to sticking with jobs. Just everything in her life is a little bit of a mess. And one day she loses one too many jobs, and her family, who are rich, basically decide to cut her off until she can hold down a job for like a year. So Eve goes off and drives away and like has a crying fit, ends up in a little tiny town that has a little bed and breakfast that is run by Jacob, who is autistic. They kind of butt heads the second they meet, but Jacob ultimately gives Eve a job at his B&B, and they slowly start figuring out that, oh, Eve is probably autistic too, but also that they like each other so much, even though they butt heads all the time. And it's very funny to see them interact, and they're so sweet, but also like they like to pick at each other sometimes, and like in a good way. But yeah, this is one that I would highly recommend, especially if you love spring in the UK countryside. And last but not least, I have Go Luck Yourself. This is the second book in the Royals and Romance series. This is following Chris, who is the second son of Christmas. So his big brother Cole is the main character in the first book, Nightmare Before Christmas. So this is following Chris, and he is going on a diplomatic mission to St. Patrick's Day, seeing what St. Patrick's Day is all about, looking to see if they have some of the missing joy that is gone, or some of the joy that has gone missing from Christmas, and also like This is an enemies to lovers or like annoyances to lovers, because Chris and Lachlan butt heads at every turn. Two royals from different families falling in love. It's really, really fun, and it's one that I would highly, highly recommend, especially if you love a good laugh. This is one to go for. All right, so those are some of my spring reading recommendations. What are some spring reads you guys have? Let me know down below. If you guys like this video, don't forget the like button. If you haven't already but would like to, go and hit the subscribe button. And if you'd like to follow me on social media for more bookish stuff, check out the links down below. Alrighty, bye guys.